What's going on, guys? So in today's video, we'll be looking at some of the facts surrounding the press release made by the WNBA that the league and its players have agreed on a new CBA after having their worst season in history. Now, the 2019 WNBA season, in many people's eyes, was supposed to be the season where the WNBA players would be able to prove to the league that they were more than justified in asking for a higher percentage of the league's revenue. And in preparing for such a season, the WNBA earlier this year rebranded its logo, appointed Kathy Engelbert as the new commissioner, and had its star players featured on many national and international commercials. Furthermore, many of the NBA stars were also in attendance at WNBA games to show support. But despite these efforts, the WNBA All-Star Game was down 30% in ratings and 28% in viewership from last year, with just 508,000 people watching, making it the third smallest audience ever for a WNBA All-Star Game. The WNBA playoffs were also down 24% from last year to an average of just 257,000 viewers, and viewership for the WNBA Finals also declined 21% from last year, making it the least watched WNBA Finals since 2013. And while the WNBA's regular season viewership numbers were up 7% from last year's numbers on ESPN2, one important thing to note is that this only took into account the games that would broadcast on ESPN, ESPN2, and ABC, which is misleading since these three networks only aired a combined 16 WNBA games this season. The other 99 televised games were on CBS, NBA TV, and Twitter. But because there are no viewership numbers available from these three networks, then getting a true grasp on the WNBA's rating and viewership numbers for the regular season isn't truly possible. Now, as it relates to the WNBA's attendance, there are a couple of points that must be made. One being that the WNBA's attendance average of 6,535 for the 2019 season was the worst in its history, surpassing last year's average of 6,769, which was also an all-time low. The second point to make about the WNBA's attendance is that it's much lower than even these numbers indicate, especially when teams like the Las Vegas Aces have their average slightly exaggerated, considering the fact that the Raiders bought 1,600 tickets this past season and gave them out for free to youth organizations in Las Vegas. The Aces also had 2-for-1 ticket specials during the regular season, along with attend 3 games and get into the 4th game for free. The Indiana Fever, on the other hand, were not only giving away free tickets to kids age 5 and under, but they were also giving away 2 complimentary tickets to those who spent $75 or more at Kroger. Even a single fan was able to boost the attendance average of the Phoenix Mercury this season by purchasing the entire 7,000-seat upper level in hopes of selling out the arena for their home opener. Meanwhile, the LA Sparks had a buy one get one free special this season, and the Seattle Storm automatically gave 2 free tickets to anyone who donated blood through Bloodworks Northwest, as did the Dallas Wings through Cater Blood Care. Now, these examples are only to show that as low as the attendance numbers have been for the WNBA, they are still above what they should be. In fact, the attendance for the WNBA has continued to decline so much so that Ice Cube's Big 3 League had a higher attendance average than the WNBA this season. This low attendance across the league is the reason why many teams have downsized their venues, such as the Atlanta Dream, who will be playing at Gateway Center Arena next season, which seats 3,500, as opposed to State Farm Arena, which seats 21,000. This lack of interest for the WNBA as a league has also reflected itself in the little fanfare during the championship parades that many WNBA teams have had, such as the Seattle Storm, whose championship parades in 2010 and 2018 paled in comparison to that of the Seattle Seahawks in 2014. The Minnesota Lynx also had very little fanfare as they went through downtown Minnesota to celebrate their championships in 2011, 2013, 2015, and 2017. Then there are teams who didn't have parades simply because they couldn't afford it, and or because the city was not willing to pay for the cost, especially when the turnout wouldn't justify it. Which is why the 2016 LA Sparks had a championship rally outside of Staples Center that was made to look much bigger than it actually was. The 2014 Phoenix Mercury had their championship rally inside of Talking Stick Resort Arena, which was less than a quarter full, while the 2019 Washington Mystics championship rally at the Entertainment and Sports Arena attracted very little fanfare. Now, as it pertains to the WNBA's finances, or lack thereof, which was a point of emphasis for many of the WNBA players, it's important to note that at no point during or after the negotiations did the WNBPA tweet or make a statement denying what Adam Silver and Mark Statham had stated months ago in regards to the WNBA sustaining losses each and every year, which included a $12 million loss in 2018. This is especially important because it was WNBPA Vice President Shanae Ogwumike who went live on ESPN to state that those numbers were not quote-unquote full or complete. And if that is true, then why has she still not given any proof to substantiate this assertion? Especially when Mark Tatum has repeatedly stated that the WNBPA has always had full access to the financial numbers. Well, the truth of the matter is that the WNBA has never been profitable, and the WNBPA have known that for years. They're just hoping that things will get better, even though the evidence over the past 2 decades has shown that things will continue to get worse. And contrary to what they would like the public to believe, marketing has never been an issue, because the WNBA as a league has been featured in films, and its players have been in movies, commercials, and on primetime television. Some of them are even commentators and analysts for both ESPN and NBA TV. WNBA games over the years have also been featured on networks such as NBC, ABC, ESPN, and ESPN2. Furthermore, there's been a bigger and more concerted effort this year to bring more awareness to the WNBA by way of Twitter, where the WNBA now streams many of its games. CBS and NBA TV also televised WNBA games, and the NBA 2K franchise has allowed WNBA players to be a part of their platform. And in terms of storyline to go along with that coverage, it is important to mention that Elena Del Don, Breanna Stewart, Sylvia Fowles, and Nneka Ogwumike, who are the last 4 WNBA MVPs, have each led their respective teams to a WNBA championship in the same season in which they were named as the WNBA's most valuable player. In fact, of the 14 players who have been named MVPs in WNBA history, 13 of them have won championships. So if the WNBA has so much going for itself, and yet still loses money, and attendance continues to decline, then it's clear that the real issue isn't with how the league is marketed, but with what the league is marketing. And that's a brand of basketball that simply has little to no entertainment value, which is why the WNBA's playoff format includes one-and-done elimination games for the first and second round, while the third round in the WNBA finals are only a best-of-5. This is something the NBA didn't have to worry about back in 1977 when it had 12 teams, because it also had a strong and growing fan base, as well as sponsors and advertisers that made having a longer playoff format financially profitable. But unlike the NBA, the WNBA's brand of basketball is not entertaining enough to entice an audience that would support longer playoff series, and the operating cost of having those extra playoff games would ultimately exceed the revenue generated. This inability to grow and attract an audience during the postseason is the reason why WNBA teams such as the Las Vegas Aces still find themselves giving away free tickets to playoff games, even when those games are one-and-done elimination games, while other teams use third-party companies to have people come in as seat fillers, all in an effort to make the arenas seem full. But these aren't facts that WNBA players want to openly talk about, because it would expose the WNBA for what it is, which is a league that through the years has always been kept afloat by the NBA's financial generosity and that would have otherwise folded. And it's that generosity that's allowed the WNBA to exist despite having such terrible television ratings that Lifetime and the Oxygen Network were forced to drop them. Even though both networks are all about female empowerment and have programming oriented towards women. However, the NBA, through this new collective bargaining agreement, has decided that it will continue to monetarily support the WNBA and its players. And in doing so, has proven that after 20 years, the WNBA still cannot operate independently as an economically viable business.
very topic, some big WNBA news. On Saturday, Candace Parker of the LA Sparks dunked during a game.
Parker on the run. We're going to get a dunk here. Yes! She did it! She did it!
It was the second dunk in the long and storied history of the WNBA, the first in almost 6 years, and needless to say, the WNBA marketing team is capitalizing it on like crazy.
WNBA action. We slam dunked in 2002. And we did it again in 2008. The WNBA. We dunk once every 6 years. The WNBA. Next dunk, 2014.
I'll be there.
So Candace, let me ask you this question, because you have a similar skill set to AD, with the exception of, you know, his jumping ability, dunking and everything else. But so Candace, let me ask you this question, because you have a similar skill set to AD, with the exception of, you know, his jumping ability, dunking and everything else. But
exciting stuff. So, you know, the Phoenix Mercury, they won the Western Conference the other day, and so now they're going to the finals. A great deal today, but Jeff Hornacek is going to purchase upper-level tickets to the first game, Sunday's game, for the Phoenix Mercury. So the people that show up at U.S. Airways, starting at 9:30 a.m., will get, they can get up to 4 tickets per person. They're absolutely free to upper level. They can get up to 4 tickets per person. They're absolutely free to upper level.
Wow.